これがベギットの真の力だ。このゴジータ様がケリをつけてやる。
The 5th anniversary Blue Fusions burst onto the scene with the greatest card arts in the game, the most hype OSTs ever, the best looking animations of all time, and an underwhelming design? Let's take a look at what these two actually offer. Starting with their base forms, both fusions were practically identical in base, with the only difference being their leader skills and Vegito not possessing prepared for battle. They led Fusion and Potara respectively, as well as Final Trump card for 150%, which consists of characters and techniques that were used as a last resort in battle. Gogeta and Vegito gained 70% attack and defense, 3 ki and an additional which had a medium chance to be a super when attacking, and a high chance to dodge in slot 3. Furthermore, they stacked attack by 30% on both 12 and 18 ki super attacks. They could work effectively in all types of content, being good floaters in Super Battle Road that could also deal solid damage. In longer events, they stacked attack for their first couple of turns, and were able to transform into their more powerful versions starting from turn 4. In their Super Saiyan Blue states, these LRs now gain 77% attack and defense, and in slot 3, they launched an additional super attack on top of having a high chance to dodge. Where these units truly started to drift apart from each other, however, was their abilities in slots 1 and 2. As the first or second attacker, Blue Gogeta gained 5 ki, launched an additional normal attack, gained 7% attack and defense for every attack performed up to 77%, and was super effective against all types. On the other hand, Vegito Blue in slots 2 or 3 gained 2 ki, launched a guaranteed additional super attack, and gained 1 ki and 7% attack and defense for every attack performed, up to 5 ki and 77%. Unlike Gogeta, Vegito could struggle for ki on his initial turn, but once fully built up, he was gaining even more ki than Gogeta from his passive. In addition, Vegito Blue's guaranteed additional super attack proved to be superior to Gogeta's additional normal and super effective against all types. While Gogeta's average attack numbers were calculated to be slightly higher, once you took into account the boss's defense and damage reduction, Vegito was in fact outputting more damage than Gogeta. Furthermore, since both LRs raised attack and defense for 1 turn on 12 ki, Vegito Blue with his additional super attacks was also boasting slightly more defense than Blue Gogeta after attacking, and he was considered better overall, though the gap between them was quite small. The final piece of their kits was their active skill attacks, which could be activated when facing one enemy whose HP is 50% or less starting from the next attacking turn. Unfortunately, their active skill restrictions were quite severe, and it was uncommon to see either fusion's Kamehameha in battle. However, on the few occasions when you did gain access to their active skills, there was a powerful tech you could utilize that massively juiced the 5th anniversary at large. Since active skill attacks count as launching a max ki super attack, you could activate their active skill while they were placed as the 3rd attacker for the turn. As a result, on their active skill turn, you would pop the active in slot 3, move them into slots 1 or 2, and gain a high chance to dodge along with a guaranteed additional super attack, all while proccing their full slot 1 or 2 abilities. These LRs were undeniably powerful and didn't really struggle in any event available at the time. So why did I call them underwhelming at the start of the video? The thing with the Blue Fusions is that while they were busted in longer events, they weren't nearly as impactful in shorter modes like Super Battle Road. Even in the legendary Goku event in Infinite Dragon Ball history, it was common to wipe out the bosses before the fusions fully built up. It took them roughly 8 to 10 turns after transforming to launch 11 attacks in battle, which was borderline impossible to do in the current difficult events. At the time, they were widely considered 1 and 2. However, once the hype died down much later, some players argued that LR Kill and Kefla simply did their job better in the current difficult event meta. This was arguably the first time in history where the anniversary units weren't undisputedly the best units in the game. And spoiler alert for 2020, the meta later on doesn't end up favoring the 5th anniversary LRs. In the end, the 5th anniversary LRs were incredibly good cards, but not leaps and bounds better than what the pinnacle of the game already had to offer. They weren't heavily criticized on release, but in hindsight, the blue fusions could have benefited from just a little bit of fine-tuning. A week before the start of the anniversary, they released update 4.8.1 and debuted 2 new features into the game: special stickers and skill orbs. You could apply an exclusive visual effect to TUR characters by using a special sticker that could be obtained from missions and special events. These effects were purely cosmetic and were simply a fun way to make your units feel more special and vibrant. Skill orbs on the other hand could be equipped to UR or higher characters and directly increase a character's potential skill level or stats. Skill orbs come in 3 rarities: bronze, silver, and gold, and only characters with 2 or more dupes in their hidden potential could be equipped with gold skill orbs. While not too big of a change at first, as higher level skill orbs became more common in the near future, many units saw a sizable increase in performance due to the extra stats and skill level. The 5th anniversary officially kicked off on January 29th. And the anniversary login card this time around was Super Saiyan Blue Goku holding the 5-star Dragon Ball. Many of the usual anniversary events made their expected return, but one notable inclusion to this year's campaign was the 55-unit ticket summon. By completing all the missions throughout the anniversary period, you could collect 55 of these special tickets and perform a multi-summon that gave 55 characters in total. The final character of this summon was guaranteed to be a random yellow coin LR, with the LR pool going up until God Goku. It goes without saying that allowing players to acquire a free summonable LR for the first time ever was an incredibly generous move that greatly excited the player base. 4 brand new events were released for part 1 of the 5th anniversary, the first of which being the Whis event, a limited event that allowed players to obtain skill orbs every week. Frieza's recruitment test was a special event that was nearly identical to the tile-breaking event. You wanted to deal as much damage as possible with a single attack against each stage that had its own effective category. The final 2 events were story events that introduced new free-to-play characters. The Saiyan Trio led by Fate event released SSRs for Kid Broly and Kid Vegeta, and the Zero Mortal Planet story event released a new Zamasu unit that was set to Dokkan awaken into an LR later on in the anniversary. Stage 5 of Infinite Dragon Ball history was also added alongside these events, featuring characters from the Dragon Ball Super Broly movie. As for stages 3 and 4, they were actually released during New Year's, and were against Goku's family and Vegeta's family respectively. All 3 of these stages were pretty challenging, but still similar in difficulty to the legendary Goku event in the first 2 stages. The banner units for the 5th anniversary LRs were Trunks and Mai, and Bardock and Guine. Both units gained 100% attack and defense, and gained an additional 3 ki and 100% to stats when there was a Super Saiyan Blue or Goku ally on the team respectively. Additionally, when facing a future saga or movie boss's enemy, they gained a further 100% attack, as well as another 3 ki, 100% attack, and guaranteed crits when also facing a Zamasu/Goku Black or Frieza enemy respectively. They were very restrictive units, but against the right enemies, they could be quite explosive. But what made these units stand out was that they were the first banner units to possess active skills. Starting from turn 3, when there was an ally named Future Trunks or Mai in the turn, they could launch an active skill attack that temporarily raised their attack by 628%, gave guaranteed crits for the turn, and stunned the enemy, all at the cost of half their defense. This ability was very powerful in Super Battle Road, allowing you to completely shut down a single enemy for the turn. Bardock and Gine's active skill could be activated from turn 4 when HP was below 80%, and they removed all ally status effects and raised allies' attack by 22% for 2 turns. They possessed incredible support capabilities, and were most commonly used to skyrocket the damage numbers of the units around them for showcase purposes. Part 2 officially kicked off a little over a week later with the Dragon Ball Hunt campaign. Completing all the conditions and collecting all 7 Dragon Balls allowed players to unlock a new wallpaper featuring Gogeta vs Broly. Simultaneously, we received the awakenings for not only the 3 free-to-play units, but also an Extreme Z area for Kid Vegeta and Raditz, as well as Kid Broly. Both units were solid after EZAing, with Broly being able to stack attack and defense, and Vegeta and Raditz were capable of dealing decent damage. But the highlight from this batch of units was LR Zamasu Goku, who we'll touch on a bit later. First, we need to talk about the Part 2 LRs for the 5th anniversary, Rosé Goku Black, and Broly Cheelai and Lemo. LR Goku Black had one job, and that was to do a shit ton of damage out the gate. He gained 66% attack and defense, and for every ki when attacking, he gained 6% attack up to 120%. This was a multiplicative boost, so at 20 or more ki, Goku Black was getting a whopping 265% attack. He also gained 2 ki for every final blow delivered up to 6 ki, and recovered 6% HP when receiving an attack at the end of the turn. While this unit put up stunningly high offensive numbers, there were a few noticeable flaws with his kit. Firstly, this unit struggled to reach 18 plus ki super attacks, as his main method of gaining ki was locked behind the inconsistent final blow mechanic. It also didn't help that he didn't have prepared for battle, and mainly possessed attack boosting links. Secondly, this unit was a bit of a glass cannon. While Goku Black greatly raised defense for one turn on both supers, he only gained 66% defense at the start of turn without any other defensive mechanics. Lastly, Goku Black possessed a Rage Mode active skill that could be activated from turn 6 when HP was below 66%. You almost never saw Goku Black's active because of how restrictive the conditions were. Despite these flaws, however, Goku Black did the job he was intended for extremely well, and was nearly unmatched in terms of turn 1 damage. He was one of the best units in the game, and a contender for best LR in the eyes of some. LR Broly, Cheelai, and Lemo on the other hand were a bit more complex than Goku Black, and more divisive on exactly how good they were. For every ki sphere obtained, they gained 15% attack and defense, and also gained different effects with 2 or more ki spheres of certain types. With 2 or more physical orbs, they received an additional 2 ki and 5% attack and defense per ki sphere. With 2 or more AGL or STR orbs, they gave all allies 39% attack. And with 2 or more TEQ or INT orbs, they gave all allies 39% defense. The most important part of this unit, however, was that with 7 or more orbs obtained, they gained guaranteed dodge for the turn. This single ability was what made this unit's potential so sky high. They were the best defensive unit in the game on a turn with 7 orbs obtained, while also having the ability to give good support to all allies. However, this was far more difficult to achieve in practice, as getting 7 orbs with a unit that doesn't create their own ki spheres is quite a tall task. Additionally, this unit didn't have reliable orb changers on their teams. And speaking of their teams, they were only on 2 category teams on release: Joint Forces and Movie Bosses, the former of which was already filled with many ki-hungry units. While a small portion of the player base was ride or die for this unit, it just wasn't common to see them at their peak. Still a good LR, but definitely not a contender for best unit. Circling back to LR Zamasu Goku, During Part 3, this unit surprisingly received his very own Extreme Z area, marking the first time an LR character received an EZA. Unlike traditional EZAs, LR EZAs didn't receive any level increase, only an upgrade to their super attack level to 25. Zamasu Goku received a very minor upgrade after EZAing, which left many people scratching their heads as to why he EZA'd immediately and not months down the line. He raised attack and defense by 59%, gained 1 key for every attack received up to 6, 20% attack and defense per final blow up to 59%, and launched an additional attack with a medium chance to be a super when facing 2 or more enemies. Unfortunately, many of his stats were locked behind his horrible final blow mechanic, which made it very difficult to see Zamasu at his best. He could still look decent with just his base passive, but for the first ever LR EZA, this character could have definitely been a bit better. To mirror the DBS Broly events of parts 1 and 2, they released a key collecting campaign linked to the number of times Zamasu Goku's Extreme Z area was cleared. Fulfilling all the conditions rewarded players with the Cataclysmic Showdown wallpaper. The final event of the anniversary was Stage 6 of Infinite Dragon Ball history, which had players face off against characters that appeared in the Goku Black arc. Overall, this anniversary was very beloved by the community due to the sheer hype of the headlining characters, but the quantity of events and quality of free-to-play characters was severely lacking when compared to the 4th anniversary. Following the end of the 5th anniversary, the next Dokkan Fest was Physical Beerus. He was the leader for Realm of Gods and Exploding Rage, the latter of which excludes several characters you would think would be on the category. And brace yourselves, because we'll be seeing a lot of nonsense categories throughout this year. Beerus gained 100% defense, 150% attack when attacking with 12 ki, and 70% attack and defense for the turn after receiving an attack. In addition, Beerus created rainbow orbs and was super effective against all types when facing a Realm of Gods enemy. He also stacked attack on super, allowing him to decimate the legendary Goku event and Infinite Dragon Ball history. Starting from turn 4, when HP was 70% or less, Beerus could use his active and gained 50% to stats, super effective against all types, and attacks guaranteed to hit for the turn. He could shoot out 10 million plus super attacks on his active turn, and on turns without his active, he could still casually reach a 5 million plus attack stat. Beerus' major flaw was that he wanted to be in slot 1 to get his buffs for the turn, but he could take sizable damage from supers, especially if it was the first attack he received. He was a very strong Dokkan Fest, and only STR Cooler was competing with him for the spot of best TUR. Speaking of Cooler, Beerus was the first monthly non-Saiyan Dokkan Fest character to hit top grossing, and this was largely due to STR Cooler making his long-awaited return on a banner. The top grossing rewards themselves were less than stellar, however, because for some reason, Dokkan decided to not give out any stones for this batch of top grossing rewards. The banner unit for Beerus was STR Whis, who was one of the best banner units we had ever gotten. Whis had a 70% chance to dodge, gained 50% defense for the turn with every attack evaded, and gave all allies 50% attack when there was a Beerus unit on rotation. On top of lowering attack and defense and sealing on super, Whis was exceptional in Super Battle Road, and he skyrocketed Beerus' offensive numbers. A week later, the Tech-type support units received their awakenings, and a few days after, the 34th World Tournament was open to players. This World Tournament was special, however, because not only did it come with a brand new LR, but also one of the greatest World Tournament units ever, Super Saiyan High School Gohan. He gained 58% attack and defense, 58% damage reduction, and gave superclass allies 2 ki and 30% attack and defense. He was a staple on all of his teams, thanks to his exceptional support and tanking capabilities. LR Demon King Piccolo was similarly very powerful, and was a great addition to villain teams. He created TEQ Orbs, and with 5 or more Ki Spheres obtained, he gained 50% damage reduction. Demon King Piccolo transformed starting from turn 7, or any time when facing a Dragon Ball Saga, World Tournament, or Dragon Ball Seekers enemy, which wasn't the greatest condition. But when he was able to transform in longer events or against specific enemies, he became an even better tank, now possessing 66% damage reduction for 5 turns from entry, or 50% damage reduction with 5 orbs from turn 6 and onwards. People were upset that such an iconic villain was relegated to a free-to-play LR, but him being as powerful as he was certainly softened the blow. Moving on to the Saiyan Day celebration, this year's headlining character was actually revealed through a Dokkan Now livestream, a broadcast that presents information pertaining to events or characters coming to the global version. The first ever Dokkan Now was released in December of 2019, and we'll talk about the contents of that stream later on. But for the second ever Dokkan Now, they revealed that transforming Bardock would be the Saiyan Day unit. Bardock was the leader for Revenge and Low Class Warrior, 2 very mid categories. He gained 120% attack and defense, 10% attack per low class warrior ally up to 50%, and was super effective against wicked bloodline enemies. His passive was quite unimpressive, but Bardock's 2 saving graces were that he stacked defense on super and had a very easy transformation condition. He could transform starting from turn 4 or any time when facing a wicked bloodline enemy. Super Saiyan Bardock now gained a massive 180% attack, 100% defense, and was super effective when attacking an extreme class enemy. For 5 turns from entry, Super Saiyan Bardock gained 3 Ki and 18% crit, dodge, and damage reduction. Furthermore, when fighting a wicked bloodline enemy, Bardock performed guaranteed crits and launched an additional attack which had a high chance to be a super. Against a wicked bloodline enemy, Bardock was an explosive unit that destroyed everything in his path. Against the rest of the game, Super Saiyan Bardock was still good, but needed a few defensive stacks from base to tank supers well. Just like Beerus, Bardock 2 was accompanied by a very busted banner unit, TEQ Raditz. When facing 2 or more enemies, Raditz gained 2 Ki, 50% damage reduction, and stunned the attacked enemy. He was a juggernaut in Super Battle Road, and would prove to be very helpful in the new hardest event in the game, Extreme Super Battle Road. Extreme Super Battle Road was essentially an upgraded version of the original Super Battle Road. It followed the same structure and featured the same enemies, but with significantly higher stats. However, because the event was designed in the exact same way, many players were already familiar with the strategies needed to clear it, making it far less daunting than original Super Battle Road was on release. That said, by virtue of being a harder take on an already challenging mode, Extreme Super Battle Road quickly established itself as a new meta event. The Super Battle Road Reward Card Gohan received an EZA alongside these 10 new stages, and he was now a great tank, gaining 58% damage reduction when there was a Goku ally on the turn. The final characters released for Saiyan Day were the free-to-play Team Bardock units. Similar to the free-to-play Ginyu Force team, Bardock's crew could be recruited across different days of the week, and using them all together formed a strong, cohesive free-to-play team. AGL Borgos was built for offense, gaining additional stats when facing a single enemy and performing an extra super when facing 2 or more enemies. TEQ Tora acted as the team support unit and also stacked attack and defense. INT Fasha possessed a high chance to dodge and created rainbow orbs when there was a Bardock unit on the team. STR Bardock was a tank, gaining 10% damage reduction per Team Bardock ally on the team up to 50%. He also sealed on super and could output solid damage, making him the most valuable member of the 5. Physical Shugesh stacked defense by 30% and performed guaranteed crits on stunned enemies. Once all Team Bardock members were recruited and their hidden potential fully activated, players unlocked the final piece of this free-to-play team, LR Team Bardock. They were the leader for the team, giving 120% to Team Bardock category allies. He gave Superclass allies 30% attack and defense, and Team Bardock category allies a further 30% to stats, for a total of 60% support for all Team Bardock members. This ridiculous support allowed the free-to-play Bardock team to be somewhat competitive, even without a 170% lead. Fun fact about this LR, you could only get 2 copies of this card from missions on release, and players wouldn't be able to fully rainbow this unit until several years after their initial debut. The final thing introduced were stamina restoring items that came in the form of aged meats. Saiyan Day 2020 was an eventful celebration for JP, but unfortunately for Global, they didn't receive Extreme Super Battle Road despite this being a joint celebration. The lack of content and equal treatment for Global resulted in this Saiyan Day being one of the most frowned upon celebrations in the history of Global Dokkan. And speaking of Global Dokkan, let's talk about the first ever Dokkan Now broadcast at the end of 2019. During that stream, it was revealed that Global would be getting an exclusive Dokkan Fest in December, months before the Japanese version. Following Saiyan Day 2020, JP finally received that global first Dokkan Fest. Featuring a character so iconic, it would remain in the minds of players for a long time to come. Perhaps the most divisive unit released to date, this unit sparked a lot of debate within the community. Right off the bat, he led representatives of Xenoverse 7 and Universal Survival Saga for 3 key, 130% to HP, and 170% to attack and defense. When it came to his leader skill, people were unanimously disappointed by it, as reps of Universe 7 had tons of overlap with Universal Survival Saga, resulting in his team having less options than other dual category leaders. Goku gained 59% attack and defense, 10% to stats for every attack received up to 59%, and once only, when attacking with 59% HP or less, he gained 59% attack and was super effective for the turn. These boosts were multiplicative, resulting in a total of 153% to stats when fully built up, and 302% attack with his one-time proc. Blue Kaioken Goku could deal impressive damage once fully built up, but his start of turn defense numbers were definitely less than ideal. He was pretty questionable defensively, capable of taking big damage from his first few hits, and he wasn't really that tanky even after getting his full defensive buffs. But what captivated so many people about this unit was not his leader skill or his passive, but instead his nuclear bomb of an active. When HP is 59% or less, with another 3 or more reps of Universe 7 allies on the team, Goku could launch a Spirit Bomb that did ultimate damage and raised all allies' attack by 30% for one turn. This ludicrous active skill was busted for 2 key reasons. The first was that Goku could give allies B-Pand levels of support for one turn, which massively shot up the attack stats of not only the units around him, but also Goku himself. The second reason lies within the final part of Goku's kit that we have yet to discuss, his super attack effect. Blue Kaioken Goku permanently stacked attack by 50% on super, which in tandem with his multiplicative 30% attack buff from his active, skyrocketed his Spirit Bomb damage. He was capable of one-shotting the last phase of the legendary Goku event with his Spirit Bomb, and in shorter events, his active could still deal great damage when combined with his one-time passive buffs. Goku on his Spirit Bomb turn was seen as the strongest TUR in the game by far, but without his active skill, Goku was a decent unit at best. You had people on one side who argued against him because of his somewhat tough active skill restrictions and lackluster performance outside of his active turn, while others praised the unmatched value of his Spirit Bomb. Most people ended up falling somewhere in the middle, realizing how powerful of a tool Goku's Spirit Bomb was, but also acknowledging that the reps of Universe 7 roster needed a lot more help to utilize his active more effectively. Quite astonishingly, Blue Kaioken wasn't the only unit that was the center of discussion during the celebration. Alongside Goku, they Dokkan awakened the nuking physical Blue Goku and TEQ Blue Vegeta, as well as another unit that completely bewildered the player base with his raw power. Physical BerGODmo. Yeah, BerGODmo. For whatever reason, Dokkan decided to give this random summonable SSR one of the biggest glow-ups in the history of the game. BerGODmo gained 30% attack and defense for every attack received up to 300%, and gained 30% defense for 9 turns on Super. 300% to stats was by far the highest cap any build-up unit could reach, and he was more than competent enough in all endgame content once fully built up. He was a killer in the legendary Goku event, capable of reaching 900% defense with 1 defensive stack per turn, and a maximum of 1500% defense if he were to additional super every turn. At his best, he could get near 1 million defense, while also shooting out 2 to 3 million attack stats, which was very good for a banner unit. He could struggle in Super and Extreme Super Battle Road on his initial turn without items, but that didn't matter to players. He was such a massive upgrade to an otherwise forgettable unit that he instantly became an iconic figure within the community, with players hailing him as BerGODmo. Alongside Blue Kaioken, Dokkan did its annual April Fool's joke, with this year's teaser being for a new racing mode. INT Bulma was the April Fool's unit this time around, and she could be farmed from the new Bulma's Wild Chase special event. A week later, the 6th Prime Battle LR dropped in the form of LR Krillin. This unit was actually very good, being viable in all types of content. Krillin had the massive flat attack and defensive boosts that were typical of Prime Battle LRs, but his gimmick was that he was stronger the more enemies he faced. When facing 2 or more enemies, Krillin gained 10,000 attack per enemy starting from the 2nd enemy, and launched an additional super attack when facing 6 or more enemies. This ability made him a great World Tournament unit, as Krillin possessed an AoE 12 key super that had a medium chance of stunning. This also meant that he was decent in Super and Extreme Super Battle Road, as he could deal solid damage to all enemies while having a chance to stun them. And last but not least, Krillin stacked attack and defense on 18 key super, which also made him viable for longer events. Overall, a fantastic free-to-play unit. Strangely, however, the April Yellow Coin LR had nothing to do with Blue Kaioken Goku, and was instead related to Prime Battle Krillin, LR Nappa / Vegeta. Let's cut right to the chase. This unit was very mediocre, or at least half of them was. Nappa was boasting very low start of turn stats, garbage links, and hit like a feather, so his AoE 12 key super wasn't the biggest factor in Super and Extreme Super Battle Road. Nappa's only saving grace was his active skill. Starting from turn 3, Nappa could pop his active and gained guaranteed dodge for the turn at the cost of 50% attack. This was a very powerful ability that massively increased this unit's survivability, especially in shorter events. Ideally, you would hide this unit turn 1, pop the active on their 2nd appearance, and exchange into Vegeta the following turn. Unfortunately, they had a pretty annoying HP restriction attached to their exchange condition, as you needed to be at 50% HP or less starting from turn 4. Unlike Nappa, Vegeta was actually pretty good. He recovered 50% HP once only, gained 100% attack and defense, and 3 key and 18% to stats when facing one enemy, plus another 3 key and 18% when attacking a superclass enemy. At 24 key, Vegeta was also super effective against all types, allowing him to output respectable damage at max key. Combined with his defensive buffs from his super attack effects, he could also tank pretty well across most events in the game. Too bad you almost never saw him though. Fun fact about this LR, they introduced the Inhuman Deeds category into the game, which consists of villains that have killed their allies. They were a 130% leader for this category, and Inhuman Deeds would not get a legitimate 170% leader until many years after its debut. At the end of April, Gotenks and Buu showed up as the Golden Week Dual Dokkan Fest units. They were similar in design to the previous Golden Week units, possessing 3 different states. However, unlike Trunks and Zamasu, Gotenks and Exchange Buu got a fair amount of hate on release. They introduced 2 new categories into the game, Special Pose and Majin Power. Special Pose was, as you'd expect, not very good, and Majin Power had very few options to work with, though it had potential to be good with some more support. Gotenks and Buu's base form were practically identical to Trunks and Zamasu, which was not a good look for units that released a full year later. The only difference was that they gained one ki and possessed different super attack effects, with Gotenks greatly raising defense for one turn and Buu instead greatly raising attack. Super Saiyan Gotenks and Evil Buu were much better, specifically in Super and Extreme Super Battle Road due to their ability to stun. Super Saiyan Gotenks had a great chance to stun on Super, while Evil Buu had a high chance to stun the attacked enemy and sealed on Super. Gotenks in particular was a very unique unit, as he had two separate 50% chances to raise attack by 50%, and two separate high chances to raise defense by 50%. He was a very RNG heavy unit, but with some good luck, he could actually look pretty impressive. Unfortunately, Dokkan decided to deviate from Trunks and Zamasu's design philosophy and completely shafted this duo's active skill condition. Whereas last year's units could use their active starting from turn 5, Gotenks and Buu could use their active when HP was 70% or more, starting from the 4th turn after transforming. This made it a lot more difficult to see Super Buu and Super Saiyan 3 Gotenks, and their final forms were only relevant in longer events, which is unfortunate, because once fully transformed, Super Saiyan 3 Gotenks and Super Buu were the strongest TURs in the game, and top 5 units overall. Gotenks hit like a missile, gaining a multiplicative attack buff of 300% when attacking, and a great chance to launch an additional super for 4 turns from entry. He outputted jaw-dropping amounts of damage, and also greatly raised attack and defense for 3 turns on Super, which further enhanced his damage and tanking post-Super. Super Buu was equally crazy, gaining 3 ki and 220% attack, 50% damage reduction, and 12% crit chance per rainbow orb. He was an incredibly powerful tank that could shoot out a very high attack stat with a decent chance to crit, and he also shared the same super attack effect as Gotenks, further increasing his defensive capabilities. In conclusion, they possessed mediocre base forms, decent to good second forms, and incredible final states that were very difficult to reach. They garnered very little hype and were the first dual Dokkan Fest units to not reach top grossing, which goes to show just how little the player base cared for them. Coinciding with the release of Gotenks and Buu, we received numerous new awakenings and free-to-play units. Tarble and Gotenks, as well as the 3 new Majin Buu Saga free-to-play units, had their awakening medals added to their respective story event sections in the Baba shop. All 5 units had niche uses and were solid units, but nothing to write home about. The 3 banner unit TURs, however, were crazy. TEQ Trunks and INT Goten were monster tanks, capable of reaching 70% damage reduction when attacking, with another Goten or Trunks ally in the turn respectively, or if there was a Krillin unit on rotation. They were practically impossible to kill with their full damage reduction up, and were very helpful for specific Super Battle Road stages. Skinny Buu was somehow as powerful as BerGODmo, if not even better. He gained 150% attack and defense, and for 7 turns from entry, he gained 3 ki, a further 150% attack and defense, and had a high chance to dodge. Skinny Buu was an elite Super Battle Road unit that could tank fairly well, on top of having a 50% chance to dodge. He was a fantastic addition to all his teams, and helped Exchange Buu out quite a bit. Backtracking just a little bit, on the same day LR Nappa / Vegeta's details were revealed, Dokkan dropped a gameplay trailer for a brand new type of battle mode coming to the game, Explosive Chain Battle. This mode was officially released at the beginning of May, with Z Broly as the first boss, and let's just say this event was quite controversial. The objective of this mode was simple: achieve a high score by dealing as much damage as possible with a well-synergized team. The composition of your team was divided into 3 key parts: attacker, supporters, and connectors. Starting with the attacker, this was your main damage dealer. Every monthly chain battle had its own advantageous category and characters, indicated in-game by blue and red sparks respectively, and you wanted to select an advantageous character with the highest stats and super attack level possible. After that came your supporters. Every player would select 10 Super Class and 10 Extreme Class characters to participate in Chain Battle. But instead of using your own units, you had to rely on supporter lineups borrowed from other players. The key was to select units with red or blue sparks, strong hidden potential investment, and the most overlapping links, categories, and types with your connectors. As the name implies, connectors acted as the bridge between your attacker and supporters. To maximize synergy, they needed to share as many links and categories as possible with your supporters. This synergy was represented by the chain power gauge, which measured how well your team fit together. Lastly, the battle phase had you select 3 units with the most synergy together in real time from a randomized pool of supporters. The timer for this phase could be paused by opening the app history right as the 8 units appeared, though you did have to time it properly. Ideally, you wanted to hit 100 million damage or more to get all mission rewards, and have a good chance of placing high in the overall rankings. These rewards were undeniably valuable, granting emblems of cooperation and unity that could be exchanged in the Baba shop for random skill orbs, with some of the most powerful skill orbs in the game being available in these chests. While this all sounded good on paper, for most players, Chain Battle ended up being a very tedious and frustrating experience. There were 3 main criticisms that made players absolutely despise this mode. The first having to do with the terrible supporter system. You had to rely more on other people's units than your own, so if you didn't have friends with good accounts, your chances of scoring high were very low. On top of that, when selecting a supporter team, you were randomly given only 6 units out of 10, meaning that with even stacked friends, bad RNG could completely ruin your run. Extreme Class supporter lineups were also far more limited than Super Class lineups, making it difficult to build optimal villain teams. The second reason is that most of the mechanics for Chain Battle were either poorly explained in-game or outright not explained at all, leading to mass confusion among the community. Lastly, despite being relatively quick to complete, Chain Battle was very tedious to do. On top of the RNG hell you had to endure, Chain Battle had its own stamina system known as Battle Energy. You started with 5 Battle Energy, with 1 being restored every 3 hours, placing limited attempts on an already aggravating mode. To make matters worse, each friend's supporter lineup could only be used once per day, meaning you often had to wait a full 24 hours just to access your best possible setups again. Overall, Chain Battle was a very experimental game mode for Dokkan, but it ultimately served to further divide and frustrate the player base. A few days later, the 26th battlefield brought with it a new set of bosses and a brand new LR Babidi and Deborah. This LR was actually quite powerful in both Super Battle Road events, sealing on their 12 key super and having a high chance to stun on their 18 key super. They boasted surprisingly high attack stats for a free-to-play LR, and were a good support for Buu units with their Majin power support, despite not being on the category themselves. This year's Goku Day celebration was a bit more eventful for JP than usual, as they released the EZA for INT Raditz, making him an even stronger free-to-play alternative for World Tournament. More importantly, however, they released 10 new category missions for the legendary Goku event, giving players tons of content to complete. But even more hype than that was the long-awaited arrival of the most anticipated EZA ever, Physical Vegito Blue. On Christmas Eve of last year, Global Dokkan held a survey in which players could vote for which character they wanted to see EZA on Global first, Vegito Blue or Rosé Goku Black. To the surprise of no one, Vegito ended up winning, and would end up releasing on Global at the end of February. But people's excitement was mixed with concern. Remember EZA Super Vegito? He ended up receiving one of the worst EZAs ever due to how powerful his counters were on release, only gaining 40% to stats after receiving an attack. If Super Vegito was so heavily undertuned, then what chance did Vegito Blue, another counter unit, have at getting a strong EZA?
There we go. Ooh, 2.3. Oh my goodness. And he's gonna get a counter here. This guy's a monster, bro. Oh! Yes! Yeah! Now Physical Vegito Blue comes out and they're just like, yeah, whatever. We'll just give him everything! We'll give it all to him! Like, dude!
Luckily for players, Dokkan decided to go all out for Vegito Blue and gave him the best EZA we had seen to date. Physical Vegito Blue gained an unconditional 40% to stats at the start of turn, and his chance to launch super attacks from his additionals were upgraded from a 10% chance to a medium chance. Combined with his powerful new super attack effect and additional 10% damage reduction from normals, Vegito Blue could reach impressive defensive numbers after attacking. But what most people remembered his unit for was his insane damage potential. Because he gained 40% attack at the start of turn, his counters now hit extremely hard. And with the introduction of skill orbs, Vegito Blue could reach a 25 to 27 crit level in his hidden potential. This gave him roughly a 50% chance to crit, and this high crit chance was applied to all of his counters and additional attacks. Suffice to say, Vegito Blue was a ludicrous unit that could melt the boss's health bar with some decent luck, and he was easily one of the hardest hitting units in the game. At the end of the month, we received our very first Kefla Dokkan Fest. STR Kefla had 2 transformations and stacked attack by 30% on super in each form. She was solid in base, boasting average attack and defense stats and a high chance to dodge with 6 orbs obtained. Kefla's damage, however, really started to explode in her Super Saiyan and Super Saiyan 2 states. In Super Saiyan 1, she gained 150% attack when attacking with 12 or more ki, and an additional 50% attack and dodge chance with 6 orbs obtained. In Super Saiyan 2, her dodge was now unconditional, and she gained a massive 160% attack when attacking with 12 ki, which combined with her attack stacking and high start of turn attack buff, allowed Kefla to reach impressive attack stats. She also launched an additional super attack with 6 or more ki spheres obtained, which further heightened her damage. Kefla's active could be activated when facing a Pure Saiyans or Universal Survival Saga enemy, and she changed physical orbs to STR, as well as becoming super effective for one turn. Unfortunately, since Kefla didn't create her own orbs regularly, she would often miss out on her dodge chance, making her susceptible to big boss supers for her first couple of turns. Kefla also had a terrible leader skill, leading Universe 6 and Rapid Growth, which consists of characters who quickly improve over the course of a battle. Despite this vague definition, many characters you would expect to be on the category are not a part of it. The Super Saiyan forms of DBS Broly, Goku Black, and Blue Vegeta from the Goku Black arc were all strangely omitted from this category. Kefla's banner came with the Dokkan Awakening for STR Kale and TEQ Kefla, as well as INT Vados. Vados was a good banner unit that gave great support and had a high chance to dodge, making her Whis light. Kefla was still a monster with her 100% dodge chance, and Kale guarded all attacks with a Kefla on the turn, allowing her to tank well after some defensive stacks. Having absolutely nothing to do with Universe 6, Baba Shop AGL Cooler and free-to-play INT Frieza received their own EZA area a few days later, and they were shockingly good. AGL Cooler now stacked defense for longer events, and INT Frieza was one of the best free-to-play units in the game. When facing a Goku's family enemy, Frieza guarded all attacks and gave all allies 2 ki and 20% to stats. Additionally, after Guard was activated, Frieza reduced damage received by 50%. He was unkillable in the legendary Goku event, and came in very clutch for several Super Battle Road and Extreme Super Battle Road stages. 2 days later, the second ever chain battle dropped against God Goku, and on June 9th, we got the EZA for Vegito Blue's counterpart, Rosé Goku Black. He wasn't given the same stellar treatment as Vegito, but he still turned out to be a good EZA, functioning similarly to BerGODmo with his 30% defense per hit received up to 180%. He also gave very potent support to extreme class allies, and also greatly raised defense by 50% on super. The physical type supports also received their awakenings at this time, which meant that all 10 type supports were now available as TURs. But before we move on, let's rewind a few weeks and shift our attention to the global version. Before the release of Kefla on JP, Team Dokkaner, one of the French leakers, teased the unexpected arrival of a certain global first character, which shook the entire community to its core.
来るぞ。
One of the most surprising releases in Dokkan history, LR UI Sign Goku was a global first LR who debuted on JP a month later. He took the game completely by storm and instantly became the best unit on both global and JP, surpassing the 5th anniversary Blue Fusions and LR Kill and Kefla. UI Goku had a very simple kit. He gained 77% attack and defense at the start of turn, and had a 70% chance to evade enemies' attacks for the first 7 turns from his entry. He also built up 1 ki and 11% attack and defense for every attack evaded up to a maximum of 7 times. He decimated Super Battle Road, Extreme Super Battle Road, and Battlefield. Furthermore, despite only having a 50% chance to dodge after the 8th turn from his entry, he was still very powerful in long events. Even though the final phase of the legendary Goku event had dodge cancelling, by the time his passive was fully built up, he was capable of tanking UI Goku supers at the end, while also being borderline unstoppable in the prior phases. Unlike almost every other unit in the game, UI Goku dominated every type of difficult content, short or long, and he took the crown as the #1 overall unit. The Extreme Z battle for Physical Kale and AGL Kefla was released alongside UI Goku, and Kale in particular received a massive glow up, now gaining 60% damage reduction for her first 6 turns. After turn 7, her damage reduction was locked behind needing 6 physical orbs, but the 6 turn limit more than sufficed in Super and Extreme Super Battle Road. Continuing with the Tournament of Power theme of the past few months, this year's Tanabata headliner was LR Blue Kaioken Goku and Evolution Blue Vegeta. This unit gained 70% attack and defense at the start of turn, and an additional 7% attack and defense per key sphere obtained. Furthermore, for every rainbow key sphere obtained, they gained 2 ki, a 7% chance to crit, and an additional normal attack up to a maximum of 3 times within a turn. With 3 or more rainbow key spheres obtained, this unit could attack up to 5 times within the turn, and they dominated Super and Extreme Super Battle Road, the legendary Goku event, and Infinite Dragon Ball history. However, this LR had a few glaring flaws. They had a very mediocre leader skill, giving 150% to stats instead of 170% to all-out struggle and joint forces category allies, the former being one of the worst category additions in the game. Secondly, this unit didn't possess prepared for battle in their link set, meaning they shared little to no key links with non-universal survival saga category allies. Most importantly, however, it was very difficult to take advantage of the final part of their passive, as they had no reliable rainbow orb changers on any of their teams, and it was a massive struggle getting them the orbs they needed. On an ideal turn, they could easily look like the best unit in the game, but overall, they were a bit too inconsistent and ended up being just good on release. The usual Tanabata campaign events made their expected return, such as Wish Strips and Purunga Wishes. On Tanabata Day, they released the special Tanabata banner, allowing players to pick up the 5th anniversary LRs with red coins for the first time. A few days later, these Universe 2 free-to-play units received decent EZAs, and a week later, the best unit in the game, EZA Super Saiyan 3 Broly, descended onto Dokkan. Yeah, not really. He was still a glass cannon after EZAing, and a major liability defensively in any difficult event. However, the Part 2 LR for this year's Tanabata campaign released in the middle of July, and he was an actual contender for #1 unit in the game, LR Full Power Jiren. Jiren was arguably the best card in the game, eclipsing even UI Sign Goku in many people's eyes. Jiren was stunningly simple. He gained 200% attack and defense at the start of turn, and for every attack received, he gained 1 ki up to 5 ki. He was also super effective against all types when the enemy had their attack or defense lowered, and he performed guaranteed crits if they were stunned. And that was it. Just these few short lines in his passive allowed Jiren to claim the throne as the best unit in the game. His start of turn stats were much higher than pretty much every unit in the game, and he was what he was without any restrictions or intense setup. He was rocking 6 million plus attack stats and 200,000 plus defense at the start of turn. allowing him to bulldoze his way through every difficult event in the game. A significant portion of the player base were in denial over Jiren's dominance because he was such a simple, overpowered unit. But there was no doubt that Jiren was an absurd card that ran the game. They even helped Jiren further by releasing 2 new units, as well as 2 Universe 11 EZAs alongside him. Free-to-play Casserole was a great Universe 11 support unit that stacked defense, and banner unit Toppo and Pride Troopers gained massive stats and guard with more Universe 11 allies present, on top of giving Universe 11 support. EZA Dispo wasn't too crazy, and EZA Toppo gave 40% support and gained 40% damage reduction under 70% HP. These units drenched Jiren in tons of support and massively juiced his offensive numbers, helping flesh out his very limited Universe 11 category team. LR Jiren wasn't the only thing players had to look forward to around this time, because in the middle of July, Dokkan hit a monumental milestone, 2,000 days of operation. To celebrate, they released an EZA area for the first ever LR in the game, and players who reached 2,000 cumulative days of login were able to EZA 1000 day LR Goku. 1000 day Goku received a very powerful EZA, gaining 77% to stats, 1 additional key per orb obtained, and 7% attack, defense, and crit, as well as 7,777 HP per key sphere. He also gave 20% attack and defense support for 2 turns on his 12 key super, making additional super attacks on this unit very valuable. Prime Battle Goku's EZA area could only be attempted with a team of the following 6 characters, making it a massive grind to EZA this LR, but it was definitely worth it. Super Saiyan Goku similarly received a pretty big upgrade, now gaining 59% to stats, 3 key and 59% defense as the first attacker, and 59% attack when attacking with 18 or more key. He could shoot out very high attack stats for a free-to-play unit, and although he wasn't crazy defensively, he could hold his own from enemy normals. Dokkan had been on an absolute hot streak lately with their new major releases and EZAs, and with the next million download celebration on the horizon, excitement among players was sky high. All that stood between the community and another pair of game-breaking LRs was one final monthly Dokkan Fest. But you can imagine everyone's collective shock when this end of July Dokkan Fest turned out to be one of the most legendary releases the game had ever seen. TEQ Ultimate Gohan completely shattered the standard of how strong current top Dokkan Fest could be. In his base form, Gohan gained 140% attack and defense and could guard all attacks. With just that single line in his passive, he was already one of the best defensive units in the game, essentially being EZA in Janemba but with double the defensive boost. After guard was activated, he gained 40% attack for the turn, and gained 1 key at the start of every turn up to 3 key. But what truly pushed this unit over the edge was his super attack stacking. We had units like Blue Kaioken Goku who greatly stacked attack, but needed time to build up their passive, and units like INT Goku Black who greatly stacked defense, but lacked meaningful defensive buffs in their passive. TEQ Gohan, however, greatly stacked both attack and defense by 50% on Super. This juggernaut of a unit, who already guarded all attacks and dealt respectable damage, could infinitely stack both attack and defense at a tremendous rate. He was invincible in long events, and even in Super and Extreme Super Battle Road, he could hold his own with little to no stacks. And he still had a whole transformation left in his back pocket. Starting from the 5th turn from the start of battle, Gohan could transform into Ultimate Gohan. Ultimate Gohan kept his guard ability, and now gained 3 key and 158% to stats at the start of turn. On top of that, once guard was activated, he gained 58% attack for the rest of battle, which caused his attack numbers to explode, and when facing one enemy with 58% HP or more, or a Majin Buu Saga enemy, he was super effective against all types. Ultimate Gohan no longer stacked attack and defense, instead gaining 50% attack for one turn on Super, so he was only brought out once it was time to wrap up the fight. And once you did, it was basically game over. With all of the defensive stacks he accumulated in base, Ultimate Gohan was quite literally untouchable in the hardest content available. His tanking stunned the player base, and he felt like he existed on an entirely different tier of brokenness. However, as with every game-breaking unit that wasn't a fusion, a sizable portion of the player base pushed back on the idea that Gohan was the new TUR king. There were two main criticisms of Gohan that players pointed out. First, his leader skill wasn't on par with the best Dokkan Fest leaders at the time. Hybrid Saiyans was a good team, but Saviors felt like yet another addition to the garbage pile of terrible categories introduced throughout the year. The main flaw many players cited, however, was Gohan's lack of key links. Gohan only possessed Revival and Saiyan Lineage as key links. Revival was rare on most of his teams, and Saiyan Lineage only gave one key. As a result, he could sometimes struggle to get super attacks off in his opening turns in base, which could also hinder the performance of the units around him. This led some players to argue that STR Cooler was better and more valuable overall, thanks to his superior leader skill, support capabilities, and link set. But the truth was that even with these flaws, Gohan was clearly the strongest Dokkan Fest TUR at the time. His defensive numbers dwarfed nearly every other unit in the game, and he wasn't lacking offensively either compared to other Dokkan Fests. His most notable weakness was also heavily alleviated by one of the biggest updates Dokkan had ever received, the overhaul of the link skill system. This new system was released with update 4.11 on July 21st, and it brought with it three important changes. The first change was that link skills no longer doubled up in slot 2. If you have 3 cards with over and a flash on the same rotation, all 3 units will now get 3 key, and the card in the middle will no longer receive 6 key. The second change was the most impactful of the 3, the introduction of link skill levels. Every link was assigned a starting level of 1 and could be leveled up to level 10. As a link skills level is raised, that link will receive an effect increase or acquire an additional effect. After winning battles in most events, each link has a chance to level up, though the higher the link's current level, the lower the chance of it increasing further. This meant that characters only benefit from their own link levels, regardless of their partner's link level. The final change was the revamp of many older links from flat stat boosts to percentage-based buffs, and several link interactions were also adjusted. When links that reduce defense or recovered HP are activated, their effects no longer stack between neighboring characters. Instead, only the effect of the character with the higher link skill level will apply. Links that activate on super attacks such as Kamehameha now require both units to super attack for the link to activate, whereas previously only one unit needed to reach 12 or more key for the effect to trigger for both. These changes drastically reshaped the landscape of the game, giving players something meaningful to grind for while significantly increasing the overall power ceiling of the game. The biggest winners of this update were characters with links that granted additional ki at level 10. Majin and Saiyan Lineage now gave 2 ki at link level 10. This was a huge help for many Majin Buu units that previously struggled with ki, allowing them to super attack far more reliably. The changes to Saiyan Lineage also greatly benefited TEQ Ultimate Gohan. While there were only a few strong units with this link at the time, several powerful units would release in the near future that possess Saiyan Lineage, further improving Gohan's consistency in base. Big Bad Bosses received the biggest upgrade, as its HP restriction was completely removed at level 10. This gave many villain units an unconditional 25% attack and defense boost. One villain in particular who experienced a resurgence because of these changes was LR INT Cell. The buffs to many of his Cell exclusive links, along with the improvement to Big Bad Bosses, allowed him to reach much higher attack and defensive stats than he could on release, and he was once again a top 10 LR. The banner unit for Ultimate Gohan was fusing Supreme Kai and Kibito. and they were clearly designed to dominate Super Battle Road. They had a high chance to stun on Super, lowered the attacked enemy's attack and defense by 30% for 2 turns, and had a high chance to dodge. They were also the 3rd banner unit to possess an active skill, allowing them to fuse into Kibito Kai whenever you wanted. As Kibito Kai, they sealed on Super, and once only lowered all enemies' attack and defense by 20%, while also stunning the attacked enemy for 2 turns. With such a vast array of utility and debuffing abilities, they were lifesavers in every Super Battle Road stage you could run them in. At the start of August, we received 2 powerful new EZA units, Super 17 and Buff Buu. Buff Buu was casually throwing out 3 million plus super attacks on the Majin Power team, and was a decent tank post-super thanks to his 20% damage reduction. Not only was he a fantastic option on Exchange Buu's team, but he was also a strong Extreme TEQ unit, which was especially helpful for players who had yet to clear the Extreme TEQ Extreme Super Battle Road stage. Super 17 was a top-tier EZA unit, becoming one of the most reliable tanks in the game once fully built up. He had a baseline 40% damage reduction and gained 1 ki up to 3, as well as 30% attack and 6% damage reduction with each hit received up to 5 times. 70% damage reduction combined with a 50% defensive raise from Super meant that Super 17 would age better than 99% of units, and he would remain viable for quite a long time. 10 new Super Battle Road stages were made available a week later, and many units released throughout the past year decimated these stages. UI Goku and Skinny Buu weaved through the Reps of Universe 7 stage, and INT Frieza tanked everything in Wicked Bloodline with ease. Universe 6 essentially had its entire core roster released throughout the past few months, and the Blue Fusions and Gotenks were the go-to leaders for the final trump card in youth stages. The reward card for clearing this new set of stages was LR Goku and Gohan, whose primary role was to stack defense for longer events. The final banner before the major celebration at the end of the month was the Peppy Gal's banner. Oceanic Shenron was decent, but Launch was undoubtedly the standout from the two. She led Peppy Gals for 120% and transformed into blonde hair Launch instantly at the start of the fight. For the first 6 turns from battle, Launch gained 3 ki, 180% to stats, 50% chance to crit, 2 additionals with a high chance of being super attacks, and sealed the attacked enemy with another Peppy Gal's ally on rotation. She was better than most LRs, capable of unleashing up to 4 supers in a turn with a high chance to crit, and her damage output wasn't far off from the top TURs. She also lowered attack and defense on super, allowing her to heavily debuff Super Battle Road enemies. But enough about monthly banner units. We were finally approaching the end of August, which meant it was time for the 350 million download celebration, or rather, what would have been called that. Understandably, it's unrealistic for the game to hit a brand new download milestone every single year, so this campaign was instead rebranded to the Worldwide Celebration, and everyone knew exactly what the theme would be. After last year's Cell Games Dual Dokkan Fest, and the overwhelming number of hints, from V-Jump leaks to the end dates on certain story events, a Majin Buu Saga celebration was set in stone. A new Infinite Dragon Ball History stage against Babidi's army, and a chain battle featuring Super Buu were released at the start of the countdown. It seemed like we were gearing up for a dual Dokkan Fest pertaining to the finale of the Majin Buu Saga, and players were beyond hyped that we would finally get LR Kid Buu in the game. But then came the unexpected reveal. When the updated app icon dropped, it featured a never-before-seen Goku and Vegeta card art. It quickly became clear that a new LR Super Vegito would be headlining the worldwide celebration, and the reaction wasn't positive. Not only did this all but deconfirm LR Kid Buu, but we had just gotten an incredibly hype LR Vegito unit earlier in the year, and Global had just come off of their 5th anniversary. To most players, it felt repetitive and unnecessary. People were freaking out, and it seemed like the worldwide celebration would end up being a major disappointment. But all of that changed the moment the headliner's animation and details were officially revealed, completely blowing the community away.
前よりさらにパワーアップしてしまったぞ。いいんだろこれで。
サンキューベジータ。
ベジータとカカロットが合体してベジットってとこかな。さらに一打スーパーベジット。
The animations for LR Super Vegito single-handedly silenced almost all the negativity going into the worldwide celebration, and it also helped that he was one of the most broken LRs we had ever seen. He had the new best team, leading Majin Buu Saga in Battle of Wits for 3 key, 130% to HP, and 170% to attack and defense. In base, Goku and Vegeta were essentially an upgraded version of the 3rd anniversary LRs, who were still holding their own a year and a half after their release. They gained 120% attack and defense and 30% damage reduction at the start of turn. This sizable damage reduction, combined with their LR stats, 120% defense boost, and strong super attack effects, made them nearly untouchable in every event. Offensively, they were very strong as well, with a medium chance to launch an additional super attack and +1 key per type key sphere obtained. Combined with their amazing key links such as Prepare for Battle, Shocking Speed, and Saiyan Lineage which they shared with TEQ Ultimate Gohan, it was easy to consistently fire off super attacks. But once transformed, Super Vegito became the single best damage dealer in the game. He recovered 50% HP once only, and jumped up to 150% to stats at the start of turn. He had a medium chance to crit, and like every Super Vegito before him, he countered normal attacks with tremendous power. Vegito annihilated every boss in the game with his crit counters, and could solo the later phases of the legendary Goku event by himself. On top of that, he gained the absurdly strong ability to foresee enemy super attacks for 10 turns, completely eliminating the risk of getting caught by a surprise super. His active skill transformation could be triggered starting from turn 4 when HP was 77% or less. While this was annoying every now and again, it was far easier to be below this threshold than above it, as most bosses were typically whittling away at your HP rather than outright KOing you. He was borderline unkillable in base, arguably being the best unit in the game for Extreme Super Battle Road, and he obliterated anything in front of him once transformed. He was ridiculously powerful and firmly established himself as the best unit in the game. But he did have some competition. LR Buuhan was comparable in strength, but was widely considered to be the second best unit in the game. He led Majin Power and Power Absorption for 4 key, 130% HP, and 170% to attack and defense. Thanks to the previously discussed link level updates, the buffs to many of his links such as Majin greatly strengthened LR Buuhan. As Bootanks, he had the same core passive as Goku and Vegeta, but recovered 12% HP instead of having 30% damage reduction. He was typically sitting at around 200,000 defense, allowing him to perform great in Extreme Super Battle Road. His 18 key super stacked defense by 30%, making him even more dominant in longer events. Bootanks' transformation was easy to activate, capable of becoming Buuhan starting from turn 4 when HP was 50% or higher. His healing was one of this unit's biggest strengths. Bootanks healed 12% HP at the start of turn, and Buuhan healed 10% HP. This allowed you to heal 22% HP the turn he transformed, not including the extra healing from his links. LR Buuhan could launch up to 3 super attacks in a turn, while also serving as the best defensive unit on his team. However, compared to Vegito's scouter ability, his 5-turn super attack seal was pretty useless, which was a bit of a shaft for Buuhan. Regardless, he was a villain powerhouse, with several great Majin Buu linking partners that allowed him to dominate effortlessly, including his new banner unit Buu Piccolo. Buu Piccolo healed 15% HP, had a medium chance to dodge, and gave Power Absorption allies 30% attack and 50% defense, heavily boosting Buuhan's numbers. Physical Tien was the other banner unit, and he was similarly a powerful support unit, giving superclass Majin Buu Saga allies the same stat buffs. The Part 1 summonable units were all massive hits, and Vegito and Buuhan were easily the most powerful million download / worldwide pair we had ever seen. The worldwide celebration officially kicked off on August 28th, and one major change compared to previous campaigns was the introduction of Memorial Dragonstones. Just like the special tickets, players received one Memorial Dragonstone for every 50 stones spent over the past year. The key difference was that in addition to exchanging these stones for tickets, players could choose to spend 150 Memorial Stones to recruit any Dokkan Fest TUR up to STR Namek Goku. This was a welcome addition for players who were only missing a specific unit from the banner. However, the 150 stone cost was far too steep for most people, forcing them to exchange for tickets instead and preventing them from fully taking advantage of this new system. It was also nonsensical that every Dokkan Fest costs the same amount, despite the massive power gap among some of the units. A new Majin Buu Saga story event brought with it two new free-to-play characters, INT Goku and AGL Hercule, who were both set to Dokkan Awaken in Part 2. Alongside this, the Saiyan Gluttons event was released as a daily stage where players could collect aged meat. Completing all missions from the Part 1 co-op campaign awarded players with a sexy new Majin Buu Saga themed wallpaper. The final two events of Part 1 were the Majin Buu Saga edition of Battlefield and the launch event, which gave players 20 stones per week for a total of 100 stones. Overall, a very weak Part 1 for what was supposed to be the second biggest celebration of the year. But let's see if Part 2 makes up for it. On September 15th, a new Infinite Dragon Ball History stage featuring the various forms of Majin Buu was released, alongside 10 new Extreme Super Battle Road stages on JP. Unsurprisingly, these stages were extremely challenging, though the powerful Majin Buu Saga units released in recent weeks proved extremely helpful across several of the new stages, including Super, Extreme, Majin Buu Saga, and Potara. Global, on the other hand, finally received the first 10 stages of Extreme Super Battle Road after a long 6-month wait. These stages also brought with it the EZA for LR INT Goku. He didn't change too much, but notably gained 59% to stats, additional support on his 18-key super, and extra support when HP was below 59%. But he wasn't the only character to receive an EZA. Alongside Extreme Super Battle Road, they Dokkan Awakened and EZA the Part 1 free-to-play characters, as well as LR Hercule. LR Hercule was surprisingly competent. He gained 3 key and 77% defense for his first 3 turns, and raised attack and defense by 50% for 3 turns on 18-key super. This allowed him to reach impressively high defensive stats, making him viable even in Extreme Super Battle Road. He also had a 50% chance to dodge for 3 turns after receiving an attack, and had a medium chance to stun on Super, further improving his survivability. AGL Hercule / Buu were similarly a good defensive option. Hercule greatly stacked defense on Super, had a medium chance to dodge, gave Majin Buu Saga support, and possessed 40% damage reduction above 40% HP. He could exchange into Majin Buu once receiving 5 attacks in battle, and he guarded all attacks with a Majin Buu Saga Goku or Hercule ally. However, the most memorable of the bunch was Super Saiyan 3 Goku. He gained a total of 180% to stats at max HP, and was super effective for his first 3 turns, allowing him to hit decently hard for a free-to-play unit. Interestingly, unlike other transforming characters, Goku would deactivate his Super Saiyan 3 transformation and revert to base when HP was 80% or less from turn 3. Spirit Bomb Goku was a solid damage dealer. He gained 130% to stats and 30% attack per Rainbow Key Sphere obtained, as well as being super effective with 1 Rainbow Orb. With 2 to 3 Rainbow Orbs, he was sitting at 180% to 210% attack, and could shoot out high damage numbers. Most notably, however, was the fact that Goku debuted a brand new mechanic to the game, Unit Super Attacks. Assets pertaining to partner super attacks were found in the game's data at the beginning of August, but this unit marked their official debut. Unit super attacks are unique super attacks certain characters can launch when conditions are met, which mostly includes having a certain character alongside them. When there is a Majin Buu Saga category ally whose name includes Hercule attacking in the same turn, Goku would launch his unit super attack, which did immense damage and raised all allies' attack and defense by 25% for one turn. This was more powerful than his standard super attack, which did supreme damage and only raised allies' attack. The first summonable character built around this new mechanic was the Part 2 LR, Super Saiyan 2 Angel Vegeta. His unit super could be activated when ki is 18 or more with a Majin Buu Saga ally whose name includes Goku in the turn. When triggered, he would greatly raise attack for one turn and massively lower defense. Vegeta's design was similar to LR Rosé, functioning as a more defensive version of Goku Black. He gained 70% attack and defense, and 4% attack and defense for every ki up to 70%, resulting in a multiplicative boost of 189% at 18 or more ki. Additionally, when there was a Goku in the turn, he gained 3 ki and a further 3 ki if Goku was from the Majin Buu Saga. Vegeta was quite tanky after attacking, but without a Majin Buu Saga Goku on rotation, this unit could greatly struggle with ki. He also raised defense for one turn on his 12 ki super, which helped in situations where you couldn't trigger his 18 ki super attack. Vegeta had a powerful active skill that could be used with a Majin Buu Saga Goku ally on the turn, starting from turn 3. Vegeta gained 1 ki, 59% attack, and 78% defense on his active turn, which caused his stats to skyrocket. This unit was good on release, but his severe Goku restrictions and key issues landed him in the lower half of the top 10 LR rankings. Unfortunately, the first 2 unit super attack cards didn't blow the player base away with their effects. Although the mechanic was cool in theory, players were a bit underwhelmed by its execution at launch. Alongside Super Saiyan 2 Vegeta, they also featured LR Majin Vegeta on the banner, and he received an updated 12 ki super attack animation. Closing in on the final few events of the worldwide celebration, the completion of the Part 2 co-op missions gave players access to a Kid Buu vs Super Saiyan 3 Goku wallpaper. They also held the 4th JP vs Global event, and scores were tallied by the number of events cleared with a Goku's family or Vegeta's family category ally on your team. Global won the competition and received a Super Saiyan Goku winner card, while JP received a Super Saiyan Vegeta loser card. The final character released was Physical Oob, who EZA'd the same day he came out, and he was very mid. The distribution of the Goku and Friends wallpaper marked the end of the worldwide celebration, and players left this campaign feeling very upset. While the overall quality of most of the characters was very high, there was very little to actually do throughout the month-long campaign. The only notable content was Extreme Super Battle Road, which despite being engaging, wasn't enough to carry the entire celebration. These stages were also released during Part 2, so for the first 2 weeks of the celebration, there was virtually nothing to do. This resulted in many memes being made about how dry this celebration was, and players were quite dissatisfied with the lack of content not only for the worldwide celebration, but also throughout 2020. Following the worldwide celebration, the next Dokkan Fest was transforming Angel Golden Frieza, and he was on the same level of power as Ultimate Gohan. Frieza led Resurrected Warriors and Otherworld Warriors for 4 ki and 150% stats, and people were relieved he wasn't introducing yet another terrible category into the game. This unit could pretty much do everything. Frieza stacked defense on super and sealed enemies' attack, making him excellent in longer events. He gained 100% attack and defense and lowered the attacked enemy's attack and defense by 30% for 2 turns. Furthermore, after receiving an attack, Frieza gained a medium chance to evade attacks for the turn and gained 50% attack and defense for 5 turns. These abilities made Frieza incredibly versatile. He was a stacker for the legendary Goku event and also sealed and heavily debuffed enemies, making him fantastic in Extreme Super Battle Road. The first hit he received could do quite a bit of damage to him, but once his extra defense and dodge chance were active, he became fairly reliable defensively. But the most unbelievable part of this card was his active skill condition. Frieza had the ability to transform into Golden Frieza whenever you wanted, which was the best condition you could have. As Golden Frieza, he gained a multiplicative 296% to stats when performing a super, and had a great chance to stun the attacked enemy for one turn. On top of massively raising attack for one turn on super, Golden Frieza was a force to be reckoned with. The flexibility of being able to go from Frieza who debuffed and stacked into Golden Frieza who did massive damage and tanked well easily placed him as a top 2 Dokkan Fest overall. Alongside him, TEQ Angel Frieza and AGL Angel Cell received Dokkan Awakenings, becoming decent stackers and solid option on Frieza's team. Update 4.12 released on October 6th and brought with it 2 great quality of life changes. The amount of ki that can be obtained was now displayed when collecting ki spheres, and characters that could not be added to teams such as Elder Kais were moved to a separate tab, meaning they no longer took up box space. A week later, the 200% perfect combat simulation event was released. Similar to the Frieza recruitment test, you wanted to clear each round as fast as possible, with each round having its own effective category. However, type nuking leaders and Devilman were banned in this event, so the popular strategy to one-turn the boss was to use Candy Vegito as a fill-in nuking leader. Quite oddly, they EZA'd INT Buu at this time, instead of during the Majin Buu Saga themed celebration a month prior. Dokkan for whatever reason refused to EZA major summonable units during their big celebrations, leaving players waiting longer than necessary for this extra decent addition to the Majin Power team. And in another unusual move, the October Part 2 LR had nothing to do with the units released this celebration. LR Team Turles. Despite being a standard yellow coin LR, Turles was absurdly powerful, gaining 130% attack and defense while supporting Terrifying Conqueror's allies for 3 ki and 30% to stats. When attacking with 24 ki, Turles was super effective and had a high chance to launch an additional super attack. At max ki, Turles was one of the hardest hitting units in the game and was on the same level as the worldwide Dokkan Fest LRs. Linked with AGL Turles or his TUR version, LR Turles was capable of reaching a 9 million plus attack stat. Turles had 2 mechanics that helped him reach 24 ki. The first was that when the enemy was stunned, Turles gained 6 ki and was super effective against all types. Combined with his chance to stun on 12 and 18 ki super, Turles was able to reach peak performance in Extreme Super Battle Road quite regularly. The second method was via his active skill. When HP fell below 60%, or starting from turn 8, Turles gained 24 ki for one turn, and this active could be used twice in battle. He was a busted unit, with many people ranking him as high as the second best unit in the game, only behind STR Vegito. This year's Halloween characters released alongside Turles, and they were a big step down from last year's batch. Grandpa Gohan and Pan were the new unit, and while they were a fun concept for a card, they ended up being fairly mediocre. Candy Vegito and Gotenks and Ghost received EZAs, but they received very minor upgrades. A couple days later, Baba Shop Krillin received a Dokkan Awakening as well as an EZA, and he was pretty good. He reduced damage received by 50% when guard was activated, and had a high chance to guard as the first attacker, and a medium chance to guard as the second or third attacker. He was similar to free-to-play INT Frieza, and was one of the best tanks in the game against physical enemies. Out of nowhere, Dokkan dropped one of the most hyped characters in their arsenal as a random monthly Dokkan Fest. The community had to do a double take when the V-Jump leaks dropped. A monthly Dokkan Fest Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta was real, and he was every bit as powerful as you would expect. Gogeta led the Giant Ape Power category for 170% stats, consisting of characters that utilize the power of the Great Ape, including Super Saiyan 4 characters. Gogeta gained 200% attack and defense, and for 8 turns from entry, he gained an additional 4 ki, 40% to stats, and was super effective against all types, which became a high chance once 8 turns elapsed. Like every other Super Saiyan 4 unit, Gogeta could counter super attacks, having a 50% chance to counter, unlike TEQ Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta who had a 70% chance. After receiving 4 attacks in battle, Gogeta could pop his active, gaining 40% attack and defense, as well as lowering enemies' attack and defense by 40% for 1 turn. He was a straightforward unit similar to LR Jiren, being extremely powerful without needing to build up or meet any annoying conditions. His high start of turn buffs allowed him to reach great defensive numbers, and he tanked nearly everything after supering with his additional 50% attack and defense raise. And if he was faced with a hard-hitting boss super, he still had a high chance to counter it anyways. He consistently put up great damage with his 4 million plus super effective attacks, never struggled for ki, and had a top tier partner in EZA Vegito Blue. It was pretty much impossible to make Gogeta look unimpressive, and he was widely considered to be the new best TUR. Alongside Gogeta, they released a new story event that dropped a free-to-play Grade A GT Vegeta, who was a solid addition to the Grade A Power team. About a week later, Masked Saiyan received a solid EZA, and the 3 Xenoverse villains received Dokkan Awakenings. While it was cool to finally get Final Form Demigra and Final Form Mira into the game, these units weren't anything too crazy. But alongside them, we also received the EZA for Prime Battle LR Frieza, who was in fact very crazy. Frieza gained 50% attack and defense, an extra 50% attack when attacking with 18 or more ki, 50% defense and 3 ki as the first or third attacker, and another 3 ki when facing a superclass enemy. He was solid defensively in slots 1 and 3, and could reach summonable LR level attack stats on his Ultra Super attack. His plethora of amazing villain attack links also supercharged his damage even further. He was stupidly busted, being a top 10 unit in the game overall despite being a free-to-play unit, and many people argued him as the best EZA in the game over Vegito Blue. The one caveat to all this was that Frieza was locked behind a very insane grind. Just like LR Goku's Extreme Z area, you could only challenge this event with 6 specific fully EZA'd free-to-play units, including Prime Battle Goku himself. This meant that not only did you need to grind 777 medals for LR Goku, but you also had to acquire all 6 free-to-play units for his Extreme Z area, as well as the remaining 5 free-to-play units for Frieza's event. Suffice to say, this was one of the worst grinds we'd ever seen, especially for players starting from scratch. Moving into the middle of the month, it was time for the annual Super Dragon Ball Heroes campaign, with this year's celebration occurring simultaneously on both versions. During the Super Dragon Ball Heroes 10th anniversary livestream, it was revealed that Bardock, Broly, Gohan, and Vegito would arrive in Dokkan as Super Saiyan 4s, with Vegito getting his very own Dokkan event. These units were designed to buff the Grade A Power category, and they were a massive boost to Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta's team. Vegito led the crossover category for 3 ki and 170% to all stats, gained 140% attack and defense, and supported both crossover and Grade A Power category allies for 1 ki and 20% attack and defense. Furthermore, just like Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta, Vegito had a 50% chance to counter the enemy super with tremendous power. He was essentially a mini Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta, trading lower attack and defense numbers for incredible support capabilities, and he comfortably landed in the lower half of the top 10 TURs. Super Saiyan 4 Broly was focused on hitting very hard, gaining 140% attack and defense when attacking with 12 ki, and launching an additional attack with a high chance to be a super with a Grade A Power ally on rotation. His multiplicative 140% attack buff, combined with Vegito's high support, allowed him to become one of the hardest hitting TURs in the game, though his defense was fairly average. Super Saiyan 4 Gohan was a solid tank for a SSR, gaining 40% damage reduction with 4 Grade A Power allies on the team. while Super Saiyan 4 Bardock was an alright damage dealer. Among the villains, Demon God Deborah was a decent Extreme Super Battle Road unit, with his 50% dodge chance against multiple enemies. And Darkness Toa was a very powerful support unit, especially for Extreme class allies. However, arguably the best unit from this entire batch of characters was Dark Masked King. He possessed high start of turn defense numbers, guarded all attacks with another Dragon Ball Heroes ally in the turn, and healed 10% of damage dealt as HP. He shared 6 links with Black Masked Saiyan, who was pretty decent in his own right, and they were a very competent rotation on the Dragon Ball Heroes team. Lastly, this celebration came with the Time Patrol event, which was pretty much a Dragon Ball Heroes stage of infinite Dragon Ball history. Even with Global posting incorrect unit details on their social media accounts, this was easily the best hero celebration we've ever had. Closing in on the end of the year, the final monthly Dokkan Fest of 2020 was transforming Bojack. He was an extreme STR Terrifying Conquerors unit that provided good support in base and transformed into a powerful offensive unit capable of launching multiple supers in a turn. Bojack was pretty much Cooler 2.0, and players were disappointed by just how similar the two were in both design and performance. However, by virtue of being a STR Cooler clone, Bojack was automatically one of the better TURs in the game. He introduced the Space Traveling Warriors category and served as a strong support unit for that team. While Bojack's support wasn't as versatile as Cooler's, his 30% defense raise on Super allowed him to slightly outperform Cooler defensively in base. Bojack transformed into full power Bojack starting from turn 4, and like Final Form Cooler, he gained 3 ki, 180% to stats, and launched an additional which had a medium chance to be a super. Where he began to differ from Cooler, however, was his extra passive effect. He gained 30% attack and 15% defense with 3 orbs obtained, and another 30% attack and 15% defense with 6 orbs obtained. While he dealt less damage overall than Cooler, who often had guaranteed crits, Bojack made up for it by being slightly stronger defensively. Much like how Android 13 last year was directly tied to the Christmas LR, it was obvious who this year's LR would be. But before that, on December 8th, we received 2 very powerful EZAs for INT Super Gogeta and AGL Blue Goku. Gogeta now gained additional effects based on the number of rainbow orbs collected. With 1 orb, he gained a medium chance to dodge. With 2 orbs, he gained 40% attack, and with 3 orbs he gained a high chance to crit. He really wanted at least 1 rainbow orb each turn for that valuable dodge chance, and with 2 rainbow orbs, his damage started to resemble Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta. Blue Goku was a demon on a full Realm of Gods rotation, gaining 59% to stats, and giving all allies 20% attack and 7% crit chance. Combined with his multiplicative buffs, he could hit 5 million attack stats and reach over 200,000 defense on his optimal setup. The Christmas campaign kicked off a week later, with Bojack Movie Super Saiyan 2 Gohan releasing simultaneously on both JP and Global. He gained 58% to stats, 1 ki and 7% attack and defense per ki sphere obtained, had a medium chance to launch an additional super, and gained 58% attack when attacking with 18 or more ki. He also raised both attack and defense for 1 turn on both super attacks, making him fairly respectable defensively despite being a nuker. However, what held Gohan back from the highest class of LRs were his severe restrictions. Both his active skill and the final part of his passive required you to reach turn 5, be below 58% HP, and have a movie hero's Goku ally on the team. Although he had a fantastic partner in Spirit Bomb absorbed Goku, the extra HP and turn restrictions made it nearly impossible to ever see Gohan at max power. Around this time, Jump Festa was being held, and Dokkan was set to reveal new info about the upcoming New Year's celebration. Jump Festa is a yearly event in Japan where major Shonen Jump series reveal news about upcoming projects and releases. For this year's event, Dokkan announced that the New Year's Dual Dokkan Fest would be none other than transforming Janemba and to everyone's surprise, Icon was the superclass counterpart to Janemba and featured an original unit super attack with Super Gogeta. Naturally, people weren't too hyped about such an unusual pairing, especially right before Anniversary. So surely they made these units busted to make up for that, right? Starting with Pikkon, he debuted the Connected Hope category for 170%, and also gave superclass allies 3 key and 130% to stats, which was a pretty good leader skill. He gained 150% attack and defense, and with 3 type key spheres obtained, he gave superclass allies 2 key and 30% to stats. Additionally, with 1 rainbow key sphere obtained, he gained 4 key, a high chance to dodge, and sealed the enemy's super attack. His unit super attack could be activated with an Angel Goku or Angel Vegeta on the turn, and he greatly raised attack for 1 turn, was super effective against all types, and greatly lowered attack. While he didn't hit very hard and often relied on dodging to survive, he still ended up being a good unit thanks to his support and debuffing capabilities. However, Pikkon's biggest asset was his active skill. Starting from turn 4, when facing a single enemy with 50% or more HP, he could activate a Ghost Usher effect and delay the enemy's attacks for 1 turn. While it wasn't too common to see in Extreme Super Battle Road, the sheer value of this ability would allow Pikkon to remain viable for quite a long time. Janemba, on the other hand, was far more controversial. He led the abysmal Corroded Body and Mind category for 170%, and gave extreme class allies 130% to stats. As Fat Janemba, he gained 120% attack and defense, and guarded all attacks. This by itself was already a good base kit, but for whatever reason, Dokkan decided to completely shaft Janemba's orb conditions. Unlike Pikkon, who needed 1 rainbow orb and 3 type key spheres, Janemba needed 2 rainbow orbs for his 30% damage reduction, as well as 4 type key spheres for his extreme class support. Janemba with his full passive up was a top 3 tank in the game, but his strict orb conditions made him far too inconsistent, especially since extreme class setups lacked reliable orb changers to support him. And to make matters worse, Janemba had an absolutely terrible transformation condition. He needed to receive 5 hits in battle to transform into Super Janemba, which was just a pain in the ass to achieve. Super Janemba was a great defensive unit with guard, and a high chance to dodge with 1 rainbow orb, but you rarely ever got to use him in battle. Pikkon and Janemba were overall underwhelming to the player base, and both were barely contenders for top 10 TURs in the game. The 7th Prime Battle LR was released at the same time, and LR Babidi and Buu were unfortunately not under Buuhan's leader skill, which greatly limited their usability despite being a decent LR. The year wrapped up with the usual New Year step-up banner, and another global shenanigan. There was an issue on the step-up banner where TEQ Super Saiyan 3 Goku replaced STR UI Goku in the unfeatured pool for steps 1 through 4. The latter was only featured on the final step as the 10th guaranteed LR character. They ended up removing the banner for roughly 40 hours to fix this issue, and refunded all stones spent on the banner. The start of 2021 kicked off with 3 EZAs, including one of the most disappointing EZAs of all time, STR Super Janemba. This unit barely changed after EZAing, only gaining a measly 20% to stats, and an additional 10% dodge within the turn for every attack evaded. He was defensively similar to EZA INT Janemba, while putting out lower attack stats than his 2-year-old counterpart. Despite the minor upgrade, he was still a top 3 EZA in the game alongside INT Janemba, which highlights just how far ahead of his time EZA INT Janemba was. TEQ Kaioken Goku and Physical Vegeta EZA'd a week later, and they were now even better for longer events. They also released an update that increased every medium chance in the game from 25% to 30%, which was a minor buff to several units. The countdown to the 6th anniversary began soon after, and just like last year, we knew who the headlining units would be weeks in advance. Ichiban Kuji held another Dokkan Battle figure collaboration, with this year's character being Ultra Instinct Goku. The most iconic moment in modern Dragon Ball was finally getting a standalone LR card, and players had massive expectations for this anniversary. Despite releasing the most impressive lineup of characters yet, the content draw throughout 2020 had pushed players to their limit. The 6th anniversary of Dreams had the weight of the world on its shoulders, and it didn't just meet expectations, it completely shattered them, delivering the greatest celebration to date.